With the anniversary of the Xbox 360 launch coming up, we're actually past it by the time this has come out. What are your favorite games that were released on the console and for Alex, either simultaneously released on PC or later ported? I remember buying it to play Gears and Mass Effect, but also having a great time with Oblivion. All this might all be covered in your upcoming retrospective. Well, I'm going to go first on that. There's 2 games, possibly 3, that really stick out to me from the Xbox 360 period. Number 1, we just talked about it, Geometry Wars, specifically Geometry Wars 2 Retro Evolved. I think this is one of the greatest games of all time, to be frank. I just remember those leaderboards with friends, and seeing that you were no longer top of the leaderboard, you had to go back in and get a higher score, particularly on that 60-second mode that it had. Just an incredible game, incredible. Right now, I want to play it. That's how good it is. Secondly, the game I'd really like to talk about is Crackdown, which I just thought was incredible, an incredible game for Xbox 360. I just spent so much time in that. And I also think it has the greatest playable demo of all time. Basically, you had half an hour within the city, and it accelerated the speed at which you actually gained abilities. So within that half an hour, it was great to be able to just experiment in terms of, in leveling up your character in various respects to see what would happen. I spent so much time on that demo. It's just absolutely superb. The last game I'd like to mention, it's not actually an all-time classic as such in the way I'd consider the other 2. But the original Assassin's Creed, I really loved the immersion, the cities, the sense of being a part of history. I loved all of that stuff. And it was a period where you could actually see things in games that had never been seen before. That's what I liked about that. Assassin's Creed, it just looked unlike anything I'd ever seen before.
That is very true. It's easy to forget because people don't really like the first game as much anymore historically due to the sequels. But like the large city with all the people walking around, sneaking gameplay in a large city, that's very interesting.
Yeah, sure. And the parkour stuff as well, that was kind of new and fresh and exciting. And, the game design itself, obviously, it hasn't aged well, should we say, certainly compared to subsequent entries, which were dramatically better. But it was just a level of immersion I hadn't really experienced before. I thought that was awesome. Oliver?
Well, there are so many games, and I think the 360 has a very special place in my heart as one of my favorite consoles of all time, because it came out when I was 10 years old. So that's like really a formative console period for that to be one of the flagship machines when I was like 10 to 18, having a lot of time to play games. That's a big deal. And I also think it was just such a big generation in terms of the switch to HD graphics and all kinds of improvements there, online support, so many different things that were going on at the time that really made us feel special. But in terms of games I enjoyed, the Halo games, Reach and 3, those were big. Mass Effect 2 and 3. Call of Duty games, there are so many, like 8 of them, basically 8 mainline Call of Duty games, if not a couple more I'm missing. Battlefield 3 was big too. I enjoy Battlefield 3 a lot. Trials HD and Evolution. Final Fantasy 13 as well, although that looks better in retrospect because of the back compat. At the time, it was not a very good version of Final Fantasy 13. That was much better on PlayStation 3. And then there were some great racing games as well, like Dirt 3, Grid 2. Really enjoyed those games. Forza Horizon and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, which I know John loves as well. That's a very classic arcade racing game. One of probably the best kart racer this side of Mario Kart, right? It's quite good. So yeah, I really have very fond memories of 360. Look back on it very, very fondly, and enjoyed a ton of games on it.
Awesome. Alex?
So there's going to be 2 categories here. One's multi-platform, but also pretty okay on the 360 there. First one is Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, which I think is awesome. Source engine game, first person, from the people that would bring you Dishonored later on. And it is a lot of fun. It has immersive simi elements in terms of sneaking, but it also has a lot of high environmental activity, being a physics-based source game. So you're punching dudes into spikes and stuff like that, kicking them off ledges. It's a lot of fun. And it has might and magic, so you got that going for you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mass Effect, which for me, I loved. As a classic Star Trek fan, I thought it had a bit of that feel of entering a new universe where humanity is not the like the paragon necessarily in the universe, and it's coming into like this like world stage. And I think even though it's Unreal Engine jank from the period, it's very Unreal Engine 3 janky in terms of like texture loading and all those things. But I thought it, especially in comparison to the ones that came after 2 and 3, it's the most unique, one of the most unique sci-fi RPGs. And it had a very different feel when later on it had this like messianic kind of story going for it, which it didn't really have in the first game. Xbox 360 launch title. It also came to PC, I think, a little bit later that I think is brilliant is Condemned Criminal Origins. First person hobo beat 'em up, as people call it. It is scary. It is a scary game. And the combat is crazy visceral. And it's a lot, survival horror-ish almost. And I really like that. Another game that is Xbox. No, so the Xbox 360 only games that I think are brilliant are The Darkness.
Oh, sure.
Technically came out for PS3. But this game never came to PC, and I still don't understand why. It is so good. And of course, Halo Reach, which I think is, after a Halo Combat Evolved, the best Halo game. It's the one that finally captured that the Covenant are scary again, instead of like hee hee ha ha, kind of like they get in Halo 3. They're actually scary again. I thought it was technically very cool at the time period. Had stuff like GPU particles. I think it may be one of the first Gbuffer based GPU particle implementations. And I thought it just looked really good along its peers.
It's interesting because I actually bought a 360 at launch, and I think I had Need for Speed, Perfect Dark, and another game that escapes me. But, probably Call of Duty 2, thinking about it. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I wasn't actually that impressed, because for the first time, I think I was seeing games tearing at 30 frames per second. And I was thinking, what's going on? What's going on here? That looks really bad. Now, we'd seen tearing before, of course, but typically on the prior generation, it was at 60 hertz. I think the one that springs to mind was like Gran Turismo 4, where on some of the more taxing levels, you could see a kind of tear line moving up and down the screen. But at 30, it was like really, really quite, poor. Secondly, I think we were seeing motion blur at 30 frames per second as well, and I was wondering what's going on there. This doesn't present like a game that I'm used to, but obviously, my opinion's changed on that. But in terms of like the generation as a whole, I just think it was absolutely fantastic, and I do think you're quite right, Alex. The Darkness. I remember playing that and thinking, this doesn't look like a 360 game. Yeah, it looks completely different, and dare I say it, doing things better than any other game that I'd seen up until that point. Particularly, there's like I think it's like, I don't know if it's a flashback or some sort of vision or something, but when you go back to like World War One, I think there's an area in that. It just looks incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, that certainly is a signature experience of that particular generation. But there were so many cool things just happening there, man, I'm really looking forward to John's coverage on that.
Can Night Dive please get the rights to The Darkness and port it?
Man, I love that.
That game would be... We've got The Darkness 2, which is quite a different game, actually.
Yeah.
But man, Darkness 1, bring that up.
I imagine the rights are complicated there because it's a comic book thing. It's got
comic book. I know it's a comic book. But like, come on, dual wielding guns in like a John Woo weird monster world. This is awesome.
Yeah. The PS3 version, pretty lousy, which again is sort of signature of that particular generation.